the great governor from the state of Florida, Governor Jeb Bush. Would you please come up? Governor. This is the guy. So we're presenting him with the Head of the Class Award.
Thank you, Rod. Thank you so much, and thank you for your leadership. It's nice to have a Secretary of Education in Washington that talks the way you do and acts the way you do and believes what you believe. It is really refreshing. If you saw the plate, these plates are beautiful. The honor that Florida has received is a rocket taking off, which is only fitting given the fact that we have the Kennedy Space Center. So thank you so much for that award. And I want to thank Jim Horn, who's here, and Phil Handy. Jim is the Commissioner of Education. Phil Handy is the Chairman of our Board of Education. I want to thank my former partner in crime, Frank Brogan, who is now the president of Florida Atlantic University. And the Florida legislature that has had the courage to do something that no other legislature really has done as comprehensively, at least, and God willing, that will begin to happen across the country. The Florida legislature has really been courageous in advocating bold reforms against some pretty powerful interests politically. Many of you may not, we have a city councilman and a senator, I know, here, and you know that if you take on the very powerful, most powerful special interests in your state, you can get into trouble. And the teachers union and the AFL-CIO that now backs them are pretty powerful. And for the legislature to do what they did time and time again over the last 4 years in our state, all praise goes to the legislature. Governors are supposed to say that. They get in trouble if they don't. But in this case, it really is true. And I want to thank all of you in this room, because were it not for the encouragement of John Walton, for example, who has been, in my opinion, the greatest supporter of school choice across the country in every way. And Jeannie Allen, who's been a great friend. We've known each other when I started one of the first charter schools with Tal Fair, who was the head of the Urban League in Greater Miami, the Liberty City Charter School. The first 6 charter schools, I think, were done in 1997, and Jeannie was a great help for us. And many of you have been so supportive of our reform efforts across the state, and I'm very, very thankful. I didn't come to get an award. I hate awards, to be honest with you. I love my job. I love being in service to the state of Florida. I'm almost as introverted as Judd Gregg. Maybe not quite, but I let my brother is the extrovert in the family, and I think many of the things that we have implemented in Florida I stole from Texas, and then Rod came up to be Secretary of Education and used what we've done in Florida to steal for the country with No Child Left Behind. So the awards don't really matter. It's great to be amongst friends and true believers in the cause that matters. And I want to talk to you not about school choice. That's like preaching to the choir. You all know how important it is, and I appreciate your help to empower particularly lower-income families to be able to make choices that the people of affluence can make. It has a huge benefit for thousands and thousands of kids. In our case, 25,000 children in our state are going to private schools because of the reforms that we've implemented. And over the next 4 years, my guess is that number could reach 100,000 easily. I want to talk a little bit about how that has been a catalyst to improve public schools. Because you see, at the end of the day, in Florida, 90% of the kids, the 2.5 million kids, I guess, or 6 million kids that go to school are going to public schools, and irrespective of the fact that we may have 100,000 kids or more, at the end of the day, 10 years from now, 90%, 85%, or 80% of our children are going to go to public schools. And our future the future of our country, the future of every community in this great country of ours, it is so dependent on how we make sure our public schools work. Choice for parents makes public schools make them work better. It has been proven in Florida each year with rising student achievement. The goal here isn't inputs, the goal here, the choice is wonderful, but the choice is the catalyst for improvement, which is really the most important part of the whole thing. So we started with 4 basic premises on how to go forward with meaningful reform with the A-plus plan. First, we said that our system should be student-centered, not institutionally driven. That we could move to a system that was focused on each child. God has given each child the ability to learn, not politicians or bureaucrats. It is divinely given, and it's up to us as committed citizens of our communities to organize ourselves around our children to assure that they learn. They have the ability to do it. All of them do, irrespective of the level of income of their families, irrespective of the color of their skin, irrespective of whether they were born in this country or born in some far-off land. We all know that, but our system has been created, I think, in a way without debate, to suggest otherwise. Secondly, we say that children should master critical skills in one grade before they're promoted to the next. Now, I know that's a radical idea, but I am proud of the fact that an experiment, for example, in our state here in Florida today, we actually have no social promotion in 3rd grade. We don't talk about it, we actually have done it. 14% of 3rd graders this last year were held back because they were below-level readers. Now, the old way of doing things, and the way that exists still in a great majority of the country, is to suggest, well, it's not fair. It's worry about the self-esteem rather than Johnny can read, and you end up with a situation where children lag behind when they have to acquire these basic reading skills to be able to acquire knowledge. And so in Florida, we've said no. If you're a level 1 reader on our FCAT, and the FCAT is a measurement of what our expectations are, and we have high expectations in Florida, unless you can prove in a tangible way otherwise, the child is going to be held back. And we're going to make sure that we provide more money and more resources and a more focused approach to assure that that child gains the skills necessary to become a grade-level reader. My belief is that that will work. And this noble experiment that has put 14% of our children back, I guarantee you 2 things. One, we will have fewer people held back next year, just as we've done in the last 4 years. The very threat of having this policy implemented, we've gone from 29% of our children in 3rd grade reading at below basic level to 21% in 2 years, and that number will continue to drop. Florida leads the nation. Florida leads the nation in closing the achievement gap, because we have high expectations for everybody, and we've got the guts to say that children need to be held back until they learn. Thirdly, we're the no excuses state. We're not the show me state. We're not the live free and die state. We're the sunshine state, but we're also the no excuses state. In Florida, we have an accountability system that puts the onus on student learning directly where it needs to be, in the classrooms. In Florida, we actually do something that I know, again, sounds pretty radical. We grade schools based on student achievement, and we don't make it impossible to figure out how schools are doing. We grade the best schools A, and we grade the worst schools F. And if F schools become chronic, if you're F graded 2 years out of 4, parents are given other choices, including any private school that opts into our plan. That catalyst of having accountability based at the school level has created a renaissance in our state. And I'm so proud of how our teachers and principals and parents have responded to this great challenge. In 1999, you should have seen the tire marks on my forehead when we implemented this plan. The world was going to come to an end. The world was going to come to an end in Florida because we implemented this plan, and the exact opposite has happened. Instead of having 78 F schools, we went from 1 year to the next to 4 F schools. Then we raised the standards because we were gaining improvement. And by the way, as schools improve in our state, we give them $100 per student extra if they're an A school or they're improvement. You should see the celebrations that go on in the state of Florida now in inner city schools, schools where the criticism was so high in 1999, in the year 2002, because we've been maybe not as persistent as in Washington, but we've been persistent to stay the course with these reforms. And now the greatest critics are celebrating the success of their children learning. I am proud of the fact that we have school-based accountability that is clear, that is transparent, that every parent can see. It is impacting real estate values as people want to be next to an A school. It is improving all schools, and all children are learning more because of that third guiding principle. And then finally, we have as a guiding principle, an important principle, that parents need to be involved in their children's education. That is so, so important and has been so neglected. Thanks to the efforts of many people in this room and the efforts of great Floridians that have been actively engaged in the charter school movement and in the school choice movement, we have more choices, I believe, than probably any state in the country for parents. Today in Florida, if a parent of an exceptional education student does not, believes that their IEP, their individual education plan, is not being met, unilaterally, it does not have to go to a committee, doesn't have to go to the, to a lawyer. If they believe that their child is not gaining what they should be getting through their IEP, they can send their child with public money, the exact same amount of money, to any private school of their choice. And today, 13,000 Floridians are taking advantage of that program, and my guess that will continue to expand. Today in Florida, we have a corporate tax scholarship program that allows another 13,000 to 12,000 students to be able to go to the schools of their choice. And I'll make Jenny, I know you're nonpartisan and you're very, very good at it, and I don't want to make a partisan point, but in the year 2002, I ran for re-election, and my opponent was strongly backed, and that's an understatement, by the NEA. And made the education reforms that we implemented the number one issue in the campaign, which I frankly thought was great because I'm passionate about the progress we're making, and I wanted to make it a campaign issue so that we could stay the course. Well, thanks to the efforts of so many people in our state, we now have people committed to choice that otherwise that wouldn't get it were it not for these reforms that existed. And imagine going to Democratic campaign meetings where 300 underprivileged families would show up, precious little children, many of them wearing plaid suits of the uniforms of a private school, with signs that say, "Why can't we have the same choices that you have?" I loved it. I loved it. Finally, let me just tell you how committed we are in Florida to make these reforms work. It is tough work, I'll tell you. A day doesn't go by where another pushback takes place. But when you see the results that we've had, where Florida, Rod, after the 2003 NAEP results come out, I will bet you $10 that Florida, at least in the lower grades, will be the state that has the greatest gains, particularly among African American Hispanic kids, and I'm so proud of that, so proud of the work that's been done. Where the achievement gap in our state is narrowing at a rate that is faster than all but a handful of states. Where the social promotion policies of the past have been thrown away. Where we lead the nation in terms of moving towards allowing Hispanic and African American students taking AP courses and PSAT, so that aspiring students, irrespective of the background of their family, have a fighting chance to be able to get a higher education. All of these reforms are still work in progress. Your support for the school choice movement is so essential for us to be able to continue to stay the course in these reforms that not only will help the people that are benefiting from reform and from the choices that together we're giving parents, but for the kids that will stay in the public schools in Florida. My hope and my dream is that every child in our state will get a year's worth of knowledge in a year's time. Imagine what it would be like. Just think what it would be like for a decade of time where that happened more often than not. What I see is, first of all, a world-class business climate where rising income is the norm for Florida's families. What I see are demands that are dropping on government, where juvenile crime drops rather than increases, where the costs of the decimation of family life in our state subside because educated, literate people stay together longer, where we have more loving communities because we've figured out how to make sure that the access to opportunity is not limited by income or race or nationality. It is a huge issue. It goes way beyond education. It goes to the core of who we are as a country, and your efforts are so important. I urge you to stay the course, and I'll tell you that this governor will stay the course as well. Thank you all very much for this great award. Thanks.